All right, Mohit. Welcome to Sharpener के Sher. Nervous?
Not nervous, but I'm very happy to be here right now because I'd get to share my experience.
All right. Okay, huh? You must have seen someone else from whom you got motivated. Like कोई पहले का video which I took or someone else took from Sharpener or anyone.
Not a video, but a friend of mine recommended me to join Sharpener because right now what the scene in my college was that I was placed in various companies, but I was not getting offer letters. So he told me that why not I join some organization or some like pay after placement course where I
Mm-hmm.
would get like some gain some experience as well as get to like apply for other companies as well because at that time around in April last year the scene was very bad. The companies
Yeah,
were not
it's
hiring.
it still is like not so good. It's
Yeah.
slightly better, but still not completely better. So yeah, that friend is he from Sharpener also? Is he passed out? Like already received a job? Yeah, he's still.
So he has received a job, but it's recent. His name is Piyush, and he was with Sharpener
Okay.
from November 2022, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember seeing Piyush's uh, profile. Very recently got placed, like last month or 2 months back,
Yes,
maybe.
yes. Last month.
Uh, Last month. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. Enough about Piyush. Let's talk about Mohit. So, Mohit, give a brief about your background.
So my name is Mohit Kumar Gupta. I am a resident of Balia, Uttar Pradesh. I completed my schooling from Varanasi. So when I was in standard seventh, my parents sent me to a hostel. So you can say that I've been living outside my home for over 10 years now. And I've learned quite a lot of stuff like how to communicate with people and how to behave outside our comfort zones. And when I joined AKGC, my college, I was very excited to learn computer science, and basically what got me into programming was that I wanted to hack stuff. So that was my prime motivation for getting into computer science. But then I got to know about this scene that if you are good at everything, then only you can crack the cybersecurity thing because it involves many stuffs like reverse engineering and all of that. So I settled with Python because I could do a bunch of like scripting also, and I could also design backend stuff. Then moving on to my final year, when we were deciding our projects, I decided to make some machine learning projects, and companies started pouring in our college, and I cracked the interviews of Hexaware Technologies, DXC Technologies, Accenture, and I cracked the Hack with Infi test also of Power Programmer. But
Mhm.
my end semester exam and their interview clashed on the same date, so I had to let go of that interview. So basically I saw that many of my friends already got their offer letters and they were working in the last semester, so that made me very nervous, and I had a FOMO that it's getting late and that I am missing out on the experience which I could be getting otherwise if I were in a company. So that's why my friend recommended me to join Sharpener. And when I joined Sharpener, I got what was lacking in my college journey, that I got a roadmap as well as continuous guidance. So,
Mohit,
for
but
example,
I want to understand here, I saw your profile also, and the way I could understand, like, you seem like a dedicated student, creating projects of your own. मतलब cybersecurity में interest is a very, very unique thing.
yes,
It's still not a very big domain as much as it deserves. It's still like a niche interest as well.
yeah,
So, where do you think your preparation was lacking such that you weren't able to crack a campus offer during your college?
I would say that the lack of usable technology, like you may be knowledgeable in many fields, like for example, I used to say that I'm a C++ programmer, but what does that mean? What am I able to create? How am I able to contribute to any organization? C++ is not that much usable unless you are working with like something real time embedded programming and all of that stuff. And with Python also, I don't think that many companies use Python, basically because most of them now, if you look at most of the startups, they use JavaScript, and some of them use Spring as their backend. So I think I was lacking in the knowledge of usable technologies. I was avoiding JavaScript for a lot of time because it's very infamous that first of all, if you go and ask anybody that how is JavaScript language as a language, programming language, they would say that, oh, it's very difficult, it's very ambiguous, it's very confusing. So I think that after joining Sharpener, I finally gave it a go and learned JavaScript, and now I'm very comfortable with it. I
Mhm.
solve my DSA problems in JavaScript on lead code. So I think
Okay,
that after getting that, what can I say, productive programming language, knowledge of that productive programming language like JavaScript
got you.
and some Python also, I got to apply in many
Mhm.
companies also.
Python is being used. Essentially, like it's not. Of course, in data science, AI, ML,
Yes,
there is extensive use of Python. Even Google has primary four languages. One of them is Python. Uber ka like backend is based on a lot of Python as well. But the problem is that it's not solely on just Python.
yes,
Like you
it's
cannot
distributed.
100% rely on Python. Yeah, because it's if you're creating web apps, then Python is not good as compared to JavaScript.
And
But yeah,
also
it's easier to learn. It's
JavaScript
beginner
is inescapable. Like every programmer has to learn JavaScript.
has to learn, right? Right. This you're knowing now.
Yes, I was avoiding that. And also that most of the companies were putting Node.js, Express.js in their requirements, job descriptions also, that we want some Node.js developer or full stack developer.
Hmm.
And whenever I saw full stack developer, my backend, although it was strong with MySQL and Django, what I lacked was the knowledge of front-end
Front end
frameworks. So
in Python. Since you are from Python, so
yes,
Django is still okay, but Python front end is not that robust. All right. So this was during your campus phase, right?
yes, in 2022
But
end.
got it. But you made a lot of projects using Python itself. उस समय कभी realize हुआ कि मतलब something is missing over here, like I'm dependent too much on Python and its libraries.
Uh, First of all, whenever a student starts learning stuff, for example, I'm talking about my case. What I felt
Mm-hmm.
was that most of the things I'm implementing is through libraries and all of that. So that felt like cheating. That okay, so I'm not writing the code from scratch. I'm implementing stuff which others have implemented. So that should count as cheating. But as I learned and I got to know stuff, I found that in computer science, it's very bad practice to reinvent the wheel. We just pick this stuff which others have created for us. We should just know how that thing is working behind the scene. For example, let's say the sort method in C++. We have the sort
Mm-hmm.
method in C++, which implements tim sort in the background behind the scenes. So a student should know, okay, what's happening here, what's the time complexity, how is it working, how it should be implemented, and all of that, and not think that okay, I should write the merge sort code from scratch, otherwise it counts as cheating. So that held me back a lot in my second and third year, but I grew out of it eventually. And uh, and after that, one more problem, the 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 major problem which I faced during the placements was lack of guidance. I did not know
Okay.
a single roadmap to follow. You could ask anybody that everyone is a guru on YouTube, that okay, you should solve this sheet, you should learn this framework. Python is the
Yeah.
most demanded language in the current market. But when you go look out for jobs, there's like few companies ask for DSA. Only I think that established companies and startups, when they are performing an interview for higher packages, they ask for DSA, and that too for screening, not for evaluation of your true skills. I think that that's where I was lacking. I thought that DSA is everything, but in my final years, I realized that no, I should also give development a chance. And through Sharpener, I learned what can I say, everything like Mern stack.
But ये like a lot of people have told me it's ulta. they've told that they always felt that development is the core importance. They didn't value DSA a lot. Even Sharpener people think that क्या करूँ इतना DSA का? Let me just start building stuff. And during the first round of interview, they lose out because data structures पूछ लेते हैं. Don't you
Yes,
think it's a balance?
yes, we must need a balance because it was the opposite case for me. I thought DSA is everything and development does not
Mm-hmm.
matter because you're going to be trained eventually in the company. But what happens is that I have seen that students who have not done DSA simply jumping into development, they struggle to code simple logic. Like although you are not going to use unordered maps and unordered set and graphs in your code, but there are some scenarios where you have to implement some code. For example, I have an example. Through Sharpener, I got uh, a company's assignment where I had to import a JSON data, upload it into a MongoDB server, and then serve those serve that data using Express.js API. So
Mm-hmm.
there I had to use some data structure and algorithm logic like using set and map, all of that. Having said that, it's not that you only focus on development or you only focus on DSA. You must have a good balance. If you don't do DSA, you won't know how to write code. Basically, DSA gives you the platform. DSA gives you the what can I say? The DSA opens up your mind to a lot of
Thinking power.
opportunities in yes in thinking power also and in designing the questions, in designing the solutions. For example, if I give you a
Mm-hmm.
problem to solve a simple coding problem, let's say rainwater trapping problem. Of course, many people just write same code in the function itself, which is provided in lead code. But you may experiment with that. You may modularize the code. You may divide into different functions. DSA also teaches you a lot of how to design your code, how to modularize and structure your code so that it is readable. That sort of uh, solidifies your brain towards that what can I say, solidifies your brain towards that programming mindset. Because in your beginning years you are just simply okay, I should write code and it should work, it should provide the result. Most of us do not care about how are we writing the code and how are we implementing the solution and how are we structuring the code. So and they jump directly into development. So when they see that okay, here is MVC, we are dividing the code into three parts: models, views, and controls. They get confused. Why are we doing this? Why should we divide this code and all of that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that with DSA comes the logic and as well as the designing part. So we should always maintain a balance with. And for DSA, many students ask me what is the minimum requirement, like what topics should I study. I think that till Stack and Q it is a must for everybody. But if you want to do something extra, go for linked
Mm-hmm.
list, trees, and graphs along with
Right.
DP. But till stacks and queues, it should be compulsory for every computer science student to at least learn, because then your concept of time complexity and space complexity would be clear.
Got it. And how is the situation in your college? Did people value this depth of learning? Uh,
Like DSA and stuff.
in general, I'm not just asking about DSA, but like how is the learning like during college?
My college did not focus on computer science much. They focused only on the theoretical parts. Like most of my subjects were theoretical: operating system, image processing. And in that too, we did not implement any algorithms. We just mucked up some definitions and solutions and wrote them down on paper. The teachers did not care if we had an interview or not. They simply wanted students to be present in the lectures or they would deduct our grades. So it was very difficult for me. But in the circle of students, it was known that we must do lead code. We must solve, we must appear for competitive programming competitions, and we got to know this from our seniors. And our seniors always emphasized on the balance. Like you should they told us that you should first of all clear all of your development goals. Like you should learn whatever framework you are comfortable in and implement a few projects, and then move on to DSA, and then do DSA for 1 or 2 years throughout your third and fourth year, and you would get a good job. That was the scenario in my college. That was the environment set up by our seniors.
Got it.
So we
That's why you
followed
said
that.
like Okay, I think that is why you have a mindset like you have been curated too much into focusing about DSA. Like development has
Yes,
not been a focus area. It's just been theoretical and DSA as far as your college is concerned.
exactly. I completed all my development part, which I knew, like HTML, CSS, Java, not JavaScript, Python, and Django in second year only. And in my third year, I did not build much projects, only one or two projects. And then when I moved to fourth year, that too in the eighth sem, final year, then I started doing development because
Got you.
I realized that I was giving too much time to DSA and not much on development. What do I have to show in my resume to the recruiters? Do I tell them that I'm good
Hmm.
at DSA? So most of the companies won't hire me. They don't want DSA. They want someone they can like for example a company Store Hippo in which I was placed through Sharpener first. So they asked about the Store Hippo asked about Node.js and all of that, and they only wanted one stack students because that was the technology they were working on. And and if I had only the knowledge of DSN, then I would not be very useful for them. They would have to train me for five or
Hmm.
6 months, and then they would deploy me to a project. So that's why I think a balance of both is required. If you're very good at development, like I had a friend who was into Android programming from class 11th or so. So he did not
Okay.
do much DSA. He is currently in money right now, and he is earning a lot of money there.
Mhm.
So, but his experience is also quite huge. Like, if you count the years, it's 6 years of experience from here only, because he
Right,
was
right.
freelancing from class 12th itself,
Long time back. Got
long
it.
time.
Okay. So in your case, when did you join Sharpener? When was it?
I joined Sharpener in I think 23rd of March, 2023 or 21st,
Very accurate. How do you remember the exact date? 23rd March.
because something had happened at my home and I returned. And after returning from home, after 1 or 2 days, I joined Sharpener. That's why I remember
Okay.
that date.
All right. Okay. Um,
And
okay.
in the beginning, my friend told me that the DSS section of Sharpener is very easy. You can clear it in 1 or 2 weeks itself. So it did not take me much time. I was adept at DSA. I completed my DSA part in I think 2 to 3 days till
Oh.
stacks and queues. I think so. And then I moved on to when I my real growth started in Sharpener when I started learning Node.js and JavaScript. Till DSA, I think that, but now I am seeing that Sharpener has improved their DSA modules, and a lot of medium to difficult questions are there too. So now I think
I think
students will be getting a challenge.
in your time we didn't even add a lot of tests.
Yes,
The students like you who were serious in DSA, they were advancing. I mean, there were two students who were advancing very fast. Either it was students like you who knew DSA beforehand, or students who were relying on ChatGPT to just simply copy paste the answers. So there was two scenarios. But like you joined roughly around the end of March. You're saying within 2 weeks or something you completed DSA, which is
yes.
crazy. After that comes like basics of web development, and then backend begins. So roughly at what month did you start doing your backend?
I think April end. I started with backend. I started with backend first, and then in August or something, I started with frontend React.js. So
That's a
I
fair
I
timeline.
could complete backend earlier, but since we had endsems and practicals and model papers, I got stuck up with all of that, and I had to pause the course a few times. I was very discontinuous with my projects at Sharpener because of the college work. But
Got you.
if I were free and I did not have any assignments from my college and I did not have any tests, I think I could have completed in June, I think, a month earlier.
Okay, all right, got you. So, like, when did you also like focus on placements when you completed your backend? Because I think your placement season would also begin, right?
Yes.
Or was
Uh,
it only after you became full stack you started looking at sharper
no,
placements?
actually, when I completed my backend, so I knew that I had to wait some time. So I thought, why not give front end a go? And then I started learning React just and parallelly I was also applying for many companies through Sharpener
Okay.
dashboard and externally also through LinkedIn and all. So from Sharpener, I think I got many opportunities like 10 times, and I don't remember the name of the companies. There was one 10 times. There was a Bangalore-based company. Like I don't remember the names. I think I appeared for five or six
Store Hippo
companies.
also you got.
Store Hippo, yes. Finally, I cracked Store Hippo, and
Mhm.
it was very quick. Like the procedure for Store Hippo was very quick. I think they were in need of a full stack developer, so that's why. And
No, you were one of the, I think the initial, you and other people, they were one of the initial people who were placed in Store Hippo. And now they are their tie-up with us is one of the strongest tie-ups that we have. Like, if they have a requirement, they first come to us. It's very simple. Now it's that good.
yes, I
But
think because
like,
the
yeah,
curriculum of Sharpener, what Sharpener teaches, and the technologies which Store Hippo works on
Store
is
Hippo
very,
looks smart.
yes,
I
very
mean,
very
see, I won't give credit like anyway because the things that we teach, they're more usable in most of the places.
yes.
So it was just one lucky thing for us. But when was this? Which month did you start getting interviews? When did you get a job finally?
I think in September. I think I started getting interviews in August and to September, and for Volkswagen, I think I received a mail from Naukri.com that there's an opportunity for Volkswagen, and I appeared for test in October or something. Then on 15th, I got an interview call, and then I came to Gurgaon and appeared for the interview. Meanwhile, I there were two companies for which I was selected in from Sharpener. First of all was Store Hippo, and I don't know the other one. It was based in Lucknow, that company. So I also cleared the interview of that company as well. But after joining Volkswagen, I had to like drop the offers of those two companies, and I finally joined
Hmm.
Volkswagen.
So lots of offers. Like you were at a position in your college when you were not having any offers and other people were progressing. From
Yes,
that, coming to holding two offers from Sharpener, one more external offer, finally going with Volkswagen. So why did you choose Volkswagen as well?
because first of all, it's a stable company. It's a renowned company. Like
Yeah.
I would not feel very proud in telling one any I work at XYZ, but it feels very good to say that I work at Volkswagen. I'm a software developer at Volkswagen.
Yep.
So the first reason was that the name itself. The second reason was that I my friend was working here, and he told me that the technologies they work on is very good. Like I'm learning currently Spring Boot, and I think most of our work will involve Spring Boot and all of that stuff. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I would get many opportunities here, like uh, working with international teams, working on collaborating with different like there are subgroups of Volkswagen AG, and one of those subgroups is the VWITS India. So we would also collaborate with the team in Netherlands or in Korea. So this collaboration part excited me to that I would get to work with
Travel abroad,
different,
maybe.
yeah, not travel abroad, but interact with people around the globe. And if the opportunity comes, of course, I would travel. I like to travel abroad.
Nice. Okay. When you let's talk about something that you learned newly in Sharpener itself, okay? Because I think DSA, a lot of people start from the beginning, so I think your journey and Unka journey will be quite different.
Yes,
Uh, Backend, on the other hand, let's even talk about front end rather than backend, because backend is still using a bit on Django, but front end was completely like newer
new.
ballgame for you. So, how do you think? What did you do right over there when you were preparing, and what did you do wrong while preparing?
While preparing for front end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So first of all, the approaches of solving a problem in backend and front end are very different. I think backend is very objective. You know that you have to create an API. At most, you would have to think that what should I name my APIs and how should my I structure my code. That's it. But in front end, it's like an ocean of techniques. There are many ways you can design your web page. So I was overwhelmed at first. So I think that what I did wrong was that approaching front end as if it were back end. I should have learned CSS beforehand, but many people, I still know many people at Sharpener who don't know CSS and they are afraid to use it. That's why
Mhm.
they are not applying for full stack through React.js. So
Okay.
I gave some time and learned CSS, and I participated in CSS dev battles online. And when I thought that I was comfortable with CSS, then I learned React.js, how components worked, and all of that. Uh, by then, I had learned that in computer science, what matters is practice. The more I practice, the more I get adept at it. So I practiced a lot. Like I I think that in Sharpener, whenever we learn a new topic, we have to create a project or two on that topic from
Yeah.
scratch. So that helped
Hmm.
me a lot because if students are left on their own to make their own projects and implement their own logic, I don't think they would be able to do that. So when the projects seem like that, first of all, the store manager or something in React.js, that to-do list application and all different apps were there. I implemented them in React.js, and gradually I grew fond of React.js, how it worked, and I finally learned the difference between front end and back end, how to code these two paradigms. Like, uh, and I finally came to realize that backend is like at Sharpener, I've seen that people think that backend is difficult and front end is easier because backend interviews tend to rely on DSA and SQL. But in front end, DSA is not asked that much. But let me tell you that once you get past that DSA barrier, once you get good at DSA, you would get to realize that actually front end requires a bit of an effort from your designing side of your brain. You would have to think how to design your pages, how to design the states, how to implement the states, and I don't want to talk about Redux and because Redux is very tough for me still. I have not implemented it properly. So I finally learned that backend is a bit easier than front end once
But
you
when
get
you're talking
past
about
that DSA barrier.
Mohit, but when you're talking about the states part,
Yes.
so a lot of people think that front end is all about how the UI looks and less about how you actually build the UI.
No,
I
no.
think you will be able to tell, like, can you just articulate how, like, those two, like, different, the role of a front end developer is a lot different than the role of a UI designer. So, how much of design sense should a front end developer have, and how much of it he doesn't need to have, which often people can get confused.
First of all, I think that every front-end developer, while developing a website, should not focus on how the website looks because that can be changed anytime. Okay, so first of all, they should think that how should I design the functioning of the components, how the components react, like how are props passed and how are states handled. And also, while writing the code, they should keep in mind that the code should be readable. Like if you go on and close the project, and after a month or two, you open the project, you immediately get to know, okay, this function is doing this thing, because it helps you it helps you create a code that is readable for others too. Because when you are in a company, you don't write a code that only you are going to read and build. You are going to write it for a team, so it should be understandable to a whole lot of people. So only looks should not matter. Looks
Hmm.
should matter, but only if you know that how are you going to implement the functioning, the behind the scenes of any front end application.
Got it. How did the nature of your projects change once you knew backend and front end? Uh,
Okay, so I would have to admit that I have not completed full stack completely from Sharpener yet. I was midway complete. I was learning Redux when I got a call from Volkswagen. So I think that I stopped learning there. But yeah, I have built a few full stack applications, one or two. So earlier I had a doubt that how does backend and front end communicate. So of course, I took a lot of help with ChatGPT and in understanding, but I never did this stuff that okay, write a code to do this and copied and pasted all of that stuff. I understood everything from
Mhm.
ChatGPT and I tried to implement it on my own.
That's cool. But when you said that you had a difficulty to understand how backend and frontend communicate, what do you mean over there? Like beyond APIs, what more should a person know beforehand?
First of all, I came to know that the backend developers create a documentation for the APIs they are going to create, like in what form the data is going to be sent, and in what form
Right.
this API is going to receive the data, and what method should be there, and everything is well documented. And what frontend has to do is send the API request to that, using that format in which the documentation specifies. So that was the only confusion. Like, how do they get to know? Is it like the front end guy calls the back end guy? Okay, so I want to register a user. On which API should I send a request, and what all data should be sent? But after that, after using ChatGPT and stuff, I got to know that okay, there's some sort of communication. Documentation is created. Front end guys follow that, and whenever a problem arises, they both come together and resolve the issue together. And if you are working alone on a full stack project, like you are creating front end as well as back end, I would say that first design the back end, write the models, uh, test it using Postman, and build some test cases. Use those test cases to verify if your code is working properly or not, and then move on to front end. And that too, in front end, don't just start integrating right away. First of all, design the pages, all of that, design the flow of the pages, all the navigations and validations using
Mm-hmm.
fake APIs. And once you are done, when they are both like complete projects on their own, then you are going to move on
Then
to
connect
the
them.
integration
Right.
part. Yes.
Got it. Okay. All right. This is a good understanding. Since in your case, you had quite a lot of interviews in different companies. You cracked three companies, in fact. So you have a fair deal in which some basic strategies of interviewing or some focus areas that interviewers might show interest in your projects or some particular tech stack. What was it for you? Maybe you can talk differently for different companies. That's
Yes.
also fine.
So there are a few things common for any interview, be it HR or technical. First of all, you should write down the introduction part, which you're going to say in the first minute or two. You should write it down. You should practice in front of a mirror, in front of a camera, and then listen to yourself talk. And when I think that the psychology behind is that if you start good, your confidence builds up, and if you fumble in the beginning, then your confidence plummets in the beginning
हम्म,
itself.
तो जब
And
मैं पूछा कि लाइक मोहित गिव एन इंट्रोडक्शन अबाउट योरसेल्फ अबाउट योर बैकग्राउंड तो वो ही पूरा लाइक नोट्स एंड एवरीथिंग यू सेड इट टुडे
no, that was actually impromptu, and I did not prepare for that. I actually have a practice of doing. I used to do it in the beginning, but now what I do is I make a mental roadmap. What do I have to say and all of that. I did not prepare it for today. I should have. I
सॉरी
I think that I should have.
जस्ट पुलिंग योर लेग
So yeah, and
राइट हाँ
after
सो
that,
यू वर सेइंग अबाउट इंटरव्यूज
yes,
प्रिपेयरिंग नोट्स
yeah, always prepare notes. And also, if you can, you search on Google like the previous questions asked. Like in Volkswagen, I when I searched, uh, I found out that their interviews were object-oriented programming oriented. Most of the questions were asked from object-oriented programming, and the DSA questions were not that tough. They were at most lead code medium questions. So I mugged those questions up. Like, people are afraid of mugging up stuff. They think that if they are mugging stuff, then it means that their concept is not clear. It's not about that. It's about the confidence. If you have already mugged things up, and if you already remember each and every step of an algorithm, it does not mean that you do not understand that. It means that you are not going to waste your time in thinking the approach on the spot when the interviewer asks you that question. It means that you
Mhm.
would be ready to implement your solution. So always be prepared with the previously asked questions. If possible, if you know the name of the interviewer, stalk them on their LinkedIn, and what is their background, and on what technologies have they worked. This will give you an idea. Like once I had an interview at not at Store Hippo, at that Lucknow company. I keep forgetting that name. I stalked that interviewer. I put his profile in ChatGPT and mentioned the job description, and told ChatGPT to act like that interviewer. So,
Oh,
so
this is crazy. Okay.
okay. So I received a lot of questions, and one question coincided with that. Like the interviewer asked about how would you, what package would you use to manage different ExpressJS servers in your EC2 instance or something like that. The I don't know the exact question, but the answer was package manager 2, project manager, or PM2. It was PM2.
And
Answer was
this was asked by that interviewer itself
yes,
in the actual
yes.
interview.
It was asked by that interviewer, and I was able to answer it. I don't think that I would have answered it if I had not prepared for it in advance. So
Mhm.
I think that people should get creative with using ChatGPT. Like they should practice mock interviews with ChatGPT itself. I practiced a lot. A few questions like at 10 times. I actually forgot a lot of Python stuff when there was interview at 10 times, but 10 times required Python developers. So I could not prepare for that because I was busy with some projects of my own. So I like went in unprepared, and I botched the interview. And I could not simply. I just I asked the I asked the interviewer himself, like, how do I check the membership of a key in a dictionary in Python? So he told me that you use the in keyword. Then he told me that it's okay. We are just looking at the logic. Your interviewer may be
Hmm.
generous in that sense that he may just look at your logic,
Low
and
overlook it. But this
yeah,
was a basic syntax thing.
yes,
So
it was a basic
you
syntax thing,
don't
so he overlooked it.
right.
If you are appearing for backend interviews, make sure that you know your SQL queries well. By well, I mean you should know the syntax. Like it should not be that you tell him in the air that okay, we will use select asterisk from table name and all of that. It must be like that. If a query is told, if a problem is told to you, you are able to write it from your memory. Like you are adept at joining tables, you are adept at subquerying and all of that. So I practiced SQL also. Uh, it helped me with the interview of Store Hippo as also. And in Store Hippo, I am not in Store Hippo. Many companies ask, why should we hire you? First question. And where do you
Mhm.
see yourself in 5 years? So for why should we hire you? I always say that my resume speaks for me. I am very experienced, and I think that my skill set and my understanding of programming paradigms will help in creating sustainable code for your organization. And for where do you see yourself in
बहुत
5 years?
सुंदर आंसर मतलब all the words were like alarm bells for me. Everything seemed good. But I think 5 years well is a tricky one. So yeah, what did you say for that?
I divide the answer into two parts. For professionally, I into a personal progress and professional progress. For personal progress, I usually say that working with a team of diverse individuals and getting to know each and all of them and building stronger connections. And for
Hmm.
professional, I say that implementing my skills to put to test in real world scenarios. That is always my first answer. And the second answer is uh, grabbing every opportunity the organization gives me to improve my skills in my domain and learn from my mistakes so that I become the expert in this field. So these are the kind of
ये
answers
भी
I go
जीपीटी से
for.
कॉपी किया है
Yes, everything is from GPT.
क्या?
Not
So this is
everything, but
interesting. Like with you, like in the last like whatever 30, 40, 50 minutes that we've been talking, um, I felt that like a lot of your like you have used AI in a very mature and futuristic way. in which like you are thinking that okay, I will continue to use AI. ChatGPT kahin ja nahi raha hai, right? So, what are the things which will help me improve my job, my learning? I mean, right from the time you were like learning different Node.js React.js components from that. Then after that, you told it to be your mock interviewer, and then like the right answers to present. You basically scouted and like kind of completely stopped the interviewer himself and like try to simulate it. These are very interesting things, like which some of which even I'm thinking we can implement it in Sharpener also, like a AI-driven end-to-end mock interview based on whatever you're learning right now.
Exactly.
Interesting stuff.
If you have GPT-4, you can actually train the model to act like a certain person if you
Yeah,
give enough prompts.
I know.
So actually,
The
when
assistant mode
yes, yes,
of GPT. Yeah.
when ChatGPT was in beta, like only it was a closed access stuff. My friend got access to it because he is very much into blockchain and Web3. So we were very fascinated with it. So when I see that most of the students they do lazy prompting in ChatGPT, that like write the code to do this.
Hmm.
They do not use it in an innovative way. I think that there are a lot of ways you can use ChatGPT. Like you can tell it to act as a person, you can tell it to act as a compiler, you can tell it to debug stuff. And I think that most of the students will face this problem that the solutions recommended by ChatGPT are not always correct, which is true. But
Hmm.
you should grab ChatGPT's finger and walk it through the process of your mindset. Like, I want this page to look like this. I want this button to be clicked. And if you find that any feature or functionality which ChatGPT is recommending is not up to your mark, then you may try to improve it on yourself. And if you get stuck, then you tell ChatGPT that, oh, your feature was not up to the mark, you are doing this and this model was not popping properly, so I wrote this, but this model is not popping up now, it is not disappearing, how can I make this disappear? Like, have a normal conversation like you would have with a teacher.
Hmm.
So academically also and for interviews also, ChatGPT is like, what can I say,
Very helpful.
it's very important tool to use nowadays because uh,
Hmm.
uh, like when smartphones were a new thing, it was considered cheating to use smartphones for studying. Like it not cheating. Books were recommended to people. Like books were preferred over smartphones. But as the use of internet grew, everything switched from books to smartphones. Now I think everything is going to switch from internet to ChatGPT and AI models. So students should learn how to use AI to maximize their learning, not only academic learning, everything.
Got
Like
you. All right. This was actually a good quote actually that internet just like from books and I think cassettes, audio players, anything we switch to smartphones. Similarly, internet might transform itself to basically AI-driven systems. We were I think talking about your interview experience over at that time and
yes,
how you were preparing. Anything in particular you want to discuss about the job that you finally got? So let's capture about that. Like, firstly, when did you like when did the interviews begin? When did you finally get your offer letter? How many interview stages were there?
for every company, I think there were at least 2 rounds of interviews, and
I
for
think technical rounds.
yes, 2 technical rounds, and finally there was an HR round.
Right. Okay.
So in the beginning of September, I think I started appearing for technical rounds. For some companies, there was a test which I had to appear for. Then after clearing that test, I got an invitation for technical interviews, and then after that HR interviews. For some companies there were no tests and they simply took my interview. It depends on the company itself. And for
Mm-hmm.
tests, I think they ask, what happens most of the time is you apply for a company, you get a test link, you appear for the test and you're not able to clear it, and then you start doubting your skills and your knowledge. You get
Mm-hmm.
demotivated and you say that, oh, it's not going to work. It happened with me in that company and I don't know the name. But after that, I got a few more opportunities. I appeared for the interviews. the the questions asked were basic stuff from JavaScript, like what is the difference between normal function and arrow function? How can you, like, what is spread operator and rest operator? Just basic stuff. And for Store Hippo, first of all, there was a written round, and we has to in which we had to like solve a few lead code problems, and the screen was shared. We had to solve it and then give it to the and then upload it to our Google Docs link.
Mm-hmm.
And which is not very common. Like, most of the time what happens is that you get a test link, you appear for the test, and then you get interview calls. After getting interview calls, I in a few companies, the interviewer did not even ask technical questions. They just asked about how are you doing, where do you live, how have been things in college, just normal stuff.
But he's HR only, no? Sort of
No, no.
technical thing, no.
I applied externally in a few companies. Like, there was a company known as Wiley Edge. So that interviewer did not ask me any technical questions. He only asked me about how is life, and he simply told me in the beginning itself that I'm not going to ask you technical questions. I've seen your resume, and I take your word for it that you have done all the stuff you have written in your interview. So I'm not going to ask you those questions.
So why? What went wrong in those kind of
So
interviews?
actually, during the interview, he asked me if I held any offers. So I told him that yes, I have an offer from Hexaway Technologies. So I think that's why, because two of my friends got selected in that, and they did
Okay.
not mention their previous offers. So I think some companies may be sensitive about it. So it's a very difficult question. Like, if some company asks you, "Do you hold any offers right now?" So what comes into my mind is that if I say no, they would think that I am not a very good candidate, that many companies have not hired me. And if I say yes, they may reject me, that I may not accept their offer because I already have offers from
Or yeah,
different companies.
yes.
So
Got you.
I had
But
to balance
in
it.
case of Volkswagen, it was the same 2 rounds plus HR round. So
Yes,
over here, like, did you see any different pattern? Were you asked this question over here also, that if you have any existing offers?
yes, I was asked. So I was asked this question in the HR interview in the final round. So first of all, I had to appear for a test, and the test was tough. And I'm not going to lie, I took help from my friends. It was a difficult test, and basically there was a time crunch, and the questions were lengthy. By tough, I mean lengthy questions. Like, I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of MCQs and very little time to solve it. And the coding questions were very easy. Like one question was to check if two strings are anagram or not, which was a very simple question. So the coding round was cleared very easily, and the toughest part was the first round of interview. Basically, it was a face-to-face interview. The interviewer took my resume and started circling stuff on my resume. And after circling stuff, he gave me the resume and told me to explain each keyword. So what he had circled was STL from C++. I had written STL,
Mm-hmm.
and AWS, Docker, and there was one more thing I do not remember. So actually, I had snuck in Docker. Like, I had only containerized one project and I did not know it in depth. So I had snuck in Docker,
Mm-hmm.
like he would not notice it, but he did notice it, and he started asking every little things about Docker, container, and repository, and all of that. Then he got to know that, okay, so but most of his questions were focused on object-oriented programming. One question he asked me was that why do we use getters and setters in Java when we can directly access public elements? We can make the elements public and directly access them, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a lot less code and same functionality. So I was not able to answer that question, and the interviewer was good. He told me the concept of encapsulation. That encapsulation means that the state of an object should only change when a method is called, and not directly using the variables
Mm-hmm.
themselves.
I had the
And
same doubt
yes,
for a very, very long time. So yeah.
and from AWS, he asked me a question that what is the default port for HTTP and HTTPS? So for HTTPS, I was able to answer that it's 443, but I could not give the answer for HTTP. He explained that it's 80. He did not ask me any DSA questions, and all he did was ask basic stuff from my resume. He told me to he gave me a list of documents. By documents, I mean objects in which I had an ID, student name, and student marks. And he told me to sort that list on the basis of the marks each student got. And if the marks were
Mm-hmm.
same, then the sorting should be alphabetical according to their name. So, being a JavaScript guy, I simply passed it into a lambda. Like the sort method accepts a lambda, so I use that lambda function. So he told me that how would you do it in Java? I explained that I do not know Java, but I think that Java also supports lambda, so we could do the same stuff there also. He explained, okay. I was
Mm-hmm.
not very sure I would qualify for the second round, but after 5 or 10 minutes, they asked me for second round, and the second
Okay.
round was DSA heavy.
Hmm.
And surprisingly, it was the easiest round. So,
Okay. I think
so
that was because you were well versed with DSA,
yes,
इसीलिए other people might find it difficult. By the way, were you in the first round, especially since it's Volkswagen, it's a big brand, were you nervous like about this
very. I
opportunity?
was very nervous because when he started circling stuff on my resume, I started sweating. Like I
क्या
knew
गड़बड़
that
कर दिया?
I had put many bullshit in my resume. I did not I think I have also put Python in there,
So
and
Python तो you have done, no? Python तो
y-
you have done a lot.
but it was in second year, second and beginning of third
Hmm.
year, and it was a lot of time. So I had forgotten most of this stuff. So and when I searched GFG for previous questions of Volkswagen, the questions were
Hmm.
easy, and I only prepared for the DSA part and the oops part. Obviously, I was not prepared for my resume to get scrutinized by the interviewer in front of me. So yeah, a suggestion is that if you put anything in your resume, know about that stuff. Don't just put everything you know. I've seen many people put everything like MVC, MERN stack with Node.js, MongoDB, and everything. Like, oh, it's okay if you're trying to fill up that resume, but your resume should look meaningful and not that you are just putting stuff there to fill it up.
I think
That's
it's
one
good, but
suggestion.
Mohit, like just last question, Mohit, when did you receive a job offer from
I received my
Volkswagen?
job offer in 3rd or 4th of November. I
Or
received
fourth
my
of
job offer,
November?
and the joining date was 22nd of November, and I gave my interview on 15th. All the three rounds were on that same day. It was a walk-in interview, offline mode. So
Mm-hmm.
the HR interviewer actually asked me that question. If you hold any other offers, please let us know. I told her that, but I made it clear that I was not going to join those companies, and I explained my reasons that Volkswagen is a renowned brand, and one more stuff is that for HR interviews, know your company for which you are applying to, because the interviewer asked me to name some brands associated with Volkswagen, like if there are any car brands I know. I only knew Lamborghini and this. See, I'm forgetting the name again. I was only able to tell her two names. I think Porsche or something. Yeah, no, it's different brand.
Porsche is,
Porsche is different, I think. So she actually
did they ask
corrected me.
about the Volkswagen? What do you say? The tagline?
Das Auto.
That's out. Yeah.
Yeah, it means the vehicle or the car or something. I think it
Yeah.
means that it's in German. No, she did not ask. Actually, her questions were when I gave my introduction. I spoke about reading novels and watching movies. So she asked me about any recent novels I had read and any recent movies I had watched. For the novel part, I had mucked up the answer. Like I have to say uh, this book only. What was I don't know. It was Have a Little Faith by Mitch Albom. It's a very good book on faith and religion. And the movie part was unexpected. I had not prepared for it. So I had to come up with a movie which does not sound very violent and all of that. because most of the movies we watch is action oriented and it's not very meaningful.
What would you say, Jawan?
No, no, no. I
Yeah, I know,
said,
man.
I told her that I watched No Country for Old Men because I knew that she was not going to cross check, and I just said a bunch of BS there and got away with it. And when I actually start speaking, I do not
What
know
kind
when
of
to stop.
movies do you watch?
I watch mostly philosophical stuff like movies with layers in them. Like I do not like to watch movies like Fast and Furious or Jawan, like you said. I
It,
like movies
but
with layers.
like then, so this answer should have come naturally to you. You don't have to worry.
No, actually, movies with layers also have some problematic stuff in them. Uh, like there's a movie Gangs of Wasipur. I love that movie. So that
Too
movie
many
has layers.
layers.
It has too many layers, but it's not very safe for work movie. So I could not say that name. I had to come up with something which made me sound intellectual and philosophical at the same time. The title for
All
that
right.
movie was No Country for Old Men, so I spoke it out simply.
That's fair enough. I think also since Volkswagen, the brand, global brand, and it has a good reputation, that makes it more necessary. Like maybe you felt that it was more important to sound a bit
Yes.
professional and dignified now. Once you receive the offer, like a 5 LPA plus offer in the middle of recession, who was the first person you shared this with?
With my mother.
Like, what was
I
the reaction?
actually we were having our lunch and I was checking my phone and I received an email with document uploading and all of that. And I got very excited and I told her and she thanked God first of all that finally मेरी नौकरी लग गई and she started giving me blessings and all of that कि आगे बढ़ते रहो ऐसे ही नाम ऊंचा करते रहो. And then she called my father and told him and he also got very happy. And then we I went to mandir and like bought some prasad distributed in my family.
घर में लड्डू फिर मिले नहीं।
Yes. And then yeah, then I started enjoying it. Like I closed my laptop, did not open it for a week. I just roamed around, joined a gym, started working out, and like all of this stuff which was remaining other than studies and preparation. I like let go of everything related to academics and I enjoyed after that. But now things are different and I have to study now.
Yeah, really good. I mean, like the way you guys are discussing right now, I'm taking all these podcasts, and I feel in every podcast I'm learning something or the other. Like even when we interview today, other freshers outside Sharpener, whenever we interact with them, or people that I know in general, there is a big layer of difference between how they look at studies, how they because they only have the knowledge of college education and then getting a job. So I understand why companies are often so hesitant to hire a fresher because that's the mindset that they have. That's what they think freshers to be. And when I see you guys and like compare, there is such a big difference in the way you guys forget how you guys solve questions, but also how you guys think about problem solving. How you think about like learning in general. It's a very, very big difference between Sharpenerians like you and all Sharpenerians in general versus other freshers. So really good stuff from your end.
Thank you, sir.
Um, Mohit, this this is a very interesting podcast. I think I but I would want some definite like word of advice if you have to just like list down what is the thing, one thing that you must do to have a good life, career, everything ahead, and what is it one thing that you should not do?
From my mistakes, I think that what I have learned so far is that we should be selfish and not in a way that I should not help others. We should be selfish in a sense that I should always focus on my growth, whatever that's good for me. We should have a clear sense of judgment, what is good for me and what is not good for me and my future. And we should always like let's take a simple example. Let's say that I have an assignment to give 2 days from now, and my friends are
Mm-hmm.
planning for a movie. So I could easily delegate the task of completing that assignment tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I could, like, it's very easy to make up excuses and convince myself that, oh, it's very easy assignment that I should be able to do it in an hour or so, so I should go and watch the movie. The mindset should be that your priorities should be in the order of your priorities should be aligned with your goal of your life. Like, my goal in life is to be successful financially as well as socially. I value respect more than like money, more than materialistic stuff, which is money, clothes and all. So
Mm-hmm.
but recently I've started focusing on my personal goals, like solving DSA. I still do DSA now because I know that I'm not going to be stuck in this company forever. And the reason for that is I'm always like, and one more thing is that many students always ask me that, how are you so good at this? How are you so good at that? How do you like make up your mind to do stuff? I always tell them that I'm curious naturally. It comes to me naturally to ask questions. So many students are in it because they only want a job, which is I think which is I think acceptable, because job is a very important thing. Job is the first thing in your part to self independence, but you should always be curious in whatever you are doing. Like, for example, if someone gives you an assignment to complete in Java, obviously you would first of all look at the documentation or consult chat GPT, but you should also be
Mm-hmm.
curious and put some effort in learning beyond that code. Like, what is happening behind the scenes, how is this code working? And I don't think that these things can be summarized into a sentence. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things which everyone has to like take into account when they are deciding for their future. But I can definitely say that what to avoid. You should always avoid bad friends. That's and by bad friends I mean friends without any ambition. Like, you may everyone has that sort of friend. When you are trying to study, they may say that, why are you studying, पढ़ क्यों रहा है, अभी तो क्लास से आया, इतना करने की क्या जरूरत है. Instead, your friend should be considerate enough to let you study and not demotivate you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
avoid bad friends and avoid procrastination. Don't be lazy. Like, make up your mind. And actually it's biological thing also. The more you start going against your will, the more your willpower gets stronger. Like, going against my will means going against what I desire or crave. Like, let's say, let's take an example of a fitness influencer. They want to eat something sweet which is high in calories, so they may want to take it, but if they avoid it for once, twice and three times, it gets easier for them down the way.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing you would have to acknowledge is that, okay, this is the problem. The problem is that
You
I'm
have
having
to fix
difficulty.
this.
Yes, you have to acknowledge the
Right.
problem, and then you have to be aware of your decisions. If it is in alignment with your goal, then you should do it, and if
Mm-hmm.
it goes against your goals, then you should try to avoid it. And once you start avoiding things which are not aligned with your goal, you get good at it, and you start seeing growth in your life.
All right. Okay. This was, I think, a pretty good summary of this. So, be selfish, be curious, look for growth, and avoid bad influence and procrastination. All right. Okay, Mohit. Thanks for being this share, a really helpful share, in fact. Thanks for the session today. And I think now that your LinkedIn is updated with Volkswagen and the people will be checking out this podcast, a lot of them will be approaching you for more fundas and gyans and the right usage of ChatGPT.
Yes, sir. Thank
All
you, sir.
right. Thanks, Mohit. Thank you for the time today. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.